Just record and start.
Wait.
Can you record this right now?
Okay. So here with Tima, I'll have Tima introduce. You can introduce yourself, but we met through a citizenship class. No.
No.
We met at the Weber State College night
Yes.
through Lulu
Lulu, yeah.
and her team. We love you, Lulu.
Yes. Awesome.
And we were sitting next to each
other.
other.
That's when you had the pamphlet of the citizenship paper.
That's
Yes.
right. That's right. Because you guys came in late.
Yep.
And so you came in and set up your stuff, and then you were like, "What do you do?" And I told you, and you're like, "Oh, I need that."
Yes.
I'm like,
yes.
Give me a call.
Yep. I do remember that.
And then fast forward, like I think it was maybe even a year later.
Yeah.
We reconnected, and you're like, "Okay, I'm going to be taking my citizenship test.
Yes.
You know, what do I need to do?" And so we started having classes on Zoom.
Yeah.
And we just went through basically just how I teach class, and then you took your test. And when did you take your test? What year was that?
Oh, that is a great question.
So this is a test for U.S. citizenship. Yeah.
Yes.
Because you were from
Fiji.
Okay.
Yes.
So say that part and then go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes. So I took the test. I want to say that was 2 years ago. Yeah.
Wow. Already.
Yeah. Yeah. Almost 2 years ago, I think.
Wait, so were you able to vote in the 2022 election?
No. I wanted to.
Did you just barely miss it?
Yeah. I barely missed it.
Oh.
Yes.
Dang.
I registered and everything.
Yeah. Oh.
Yes. And I was like ready for it. I just wasn't sure, like there was like this mail that came. Like I think I'm gonna reach out to you more on that.
Yeah,
like
okay,
how
cool.
to do that.
Cool.
Because I was so confused.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it is confusing though. And that's why yeah. Registering is the easy part.
Yeah.
The next step is like, okay, then what happens?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Okay, so and then you became a citizen. So you became a citizen in 2022 or?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was trying to remember. Yeah, it was pretty quick.
Okay, yeah.
It was very quick. Like after that, things.
I never asked you about your oath ceremony.
Oh,
what that was
yeah.
like. Like, how did you feel?
Very surreal.
Yeah.
It was quite a long journey for me, that path of citizenship.
Yep.
You know, came to the U.S. in '94, and then like being up there, just listening to everything, and yeah, I think for me, I kept thinking of my parents because I wish they were there with me. They came to the U.S., especially my mom back in 1989. You know, that was where my emotions were coming all the time. So thank you. It was definitely emotional. I was feeling very grateful, but just wishing my parents were right there. But I know that they were so happy for me and so excited. So I was, you know, my brothers were excited for me too. But my eyes were just like puffy, honestly, you know. And then there was another emotion of like, I have a responsibility now, you know,
right.
to use this opportunity to use my voice and really advocate because I have this experience, and so I'm a huge believer in that. So yeah.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing that, sis. It reminded me of my own experience, and I was crying angry tears at mine. Yeah. But I remember my little brother became a citizen in 2021, and we were so excited for him. He was the last of our whole family to become a citizen, and he, like myself, didn't want to become a citizen because it had been such a long and difficult journey. And so we went to the INS office in Salt Lake, and we couldn't go in because it was COVID time.
Yeah.
So we had to drop him off in the parking lot, and he had his ta'awalan and everything, his tupenu, his jandals. He goes in, and it was like so fast. It was probably like 20 to 30 minutes, and then he comes out, and he had just the biggest smile on his face. And he was just like, can't believe this is happening. This is so surreal. And he said he was really annoyed at the judge because the judge had like a suit jacket on and then was just wearing shorts. You know, like he didn't even get dressed up all the way, you know, and he was like, he doesn't even know how long it's taken me to make this decision and come here. The least you could have done is also wear pants, you know?
Yeah.
But we were so excited to finally have our last sibling have his citizenship and just not have to worry about that anymore. Not have to worry about traveling, you know, and being pulled to the side while you're going through immigration and being asked questions. And yeah. So
Definitely.
beautiful.
Yeah.
What a great, like, you just have so many great stories in your journey. So before we jump into that, introduce yourself.
Yes. So, Nadangot Timaima, Sarakula Vaklala Clawson, Naunangone ni Bunolevu, Vasui Lau. My name is Tima. Tima Sarakula Vaklala Clawson. I'm from Bunolevu. It's in Fiji, beautiful island of Fiji. And on my maternal side, I'm from Lau. But yeah, that's me. And there's 5 of us in our family. I'm the youngest, only girl, all boys. But yeah.
I love it. I always wanted to have all boys and one girl.
Yeah.
Probably because I was just, and still am not very, just a tomboy. And I love to be around boys because they're like less hassle.
Yeah.
You know, they're not so dramatic.
Yeah.
Except for when they're hungry.
Yes. Sorry. I have 4 brothers. I think I said 5.
Yeah.
4 brothers.
Oh, that's
yes.
And so you came to America when?
In 1994, when I was 10 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. My visa finally got approved. I believe my mom made 2 attempts to get me here to the U.S. and both times denied.
Really?
Yeah, because she came in 1989, and
so she was here for five years.
So she was, I hadn't seen her for that long.
Wow.
And I believe I was going to be the first one after her to come, and they kept denying my visa. And
did they say why?
That is a great question. I never asked my mom or, yeah.
So you've been here since 1994?
Yeah, it was 30 years in January.
And you said you grew up in California?
I did.
Yeah. Well, what part of Cali?
So grew up in Northern California. When I came to the U.S., my family were already, like my mom, dad, and my brother, the youngest of the boys, were in Sacramento.
Okay.
And then,
is there a large Fijian
in Sacramento
when they got here?
Or no, like there was a little, but now it's expanded. Like I was looking at the data the other day. Sacramento is the biggest city. It's the largest city with the largest population of Fijians in the U.S.
Wow.
Yeah, but yeah,
like even more than Vegas, even because there are a lot of
Sacramento.
Fijians in Vegas, right?
Oh, there's more in Sac.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But yeah, when I moved in, I feel like there probably were less than 100. I could be wrong, but like we knew each other, you know, like there was only like one Assemblies of God church and then one Methodist, and like we would just hop
Oh.
Just because we were like relatives and friends,
Yeah,
and
yeah. And you
Yeah.
had common backgrounds. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds about the same with me too.
Mhm.
So my dad is Tongan and my mom is Maori, and here they have a large Tongan population, but
Mhm.
not a very large Maori population. And I just
Yeah.
remember that, like, I only knew them because we would get together and I'd be like, oh, that's us,
Yep. Yep.
and it's still pretty small, but I think at least on my Maori side, there are more
Mhm.
and more Maori coming to Utah. I've heard that there's been like, especially coming out of Laie. I don't know if you've heard that so many people coming out of Laie, they're coming to Utah.
Okay.
So it's growing and growing, but probably not the same
Yeah.
as a Tongan community. Is there a large Fijian community here in Utah?
Oh, yeah, that's a good number. I think there's the last data I saw was like 800. So
800 people?
uh-huh.
I thought you were going to say like 800,000 people. Wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow, I thought that there would be more.
More? Yeah. So I think it's California, and maybe Hawaii is another one. Seattle, Washington.
Yeah.
It's another one.
I think what a lot of people like, I heard this argument the other day, like, how come we don't have as much diversity here in Utah? And I'm like, Utah's a hard sell. Sorry.
Yes.
It's inland. We're not close to our ocean. So the fish is not going to be fresh. We have to rehydrate everything. Utah isn't the first on our list. And if it wasn't for me, if it wasn't for my family, for family being here, and for the church being here, Utah would have not been even a consideration.
Yeah, I think my parents moved out because of the weather too. Oh, really? They're like, we're done. Yeah. Like, I flew back to check on them last weekend. I landed.
Her parents moved to California.
Yeah, my parents moved back end of January, so I wanted to make sure that they were all moved in. Like this first weekend of February, and I landed, and the weather was beautiful, and I'm like, it does not get old, that California weather. And I was like, yes, I know, Mom and Dad, I know. Yeah.
Well, they're also like, we're older.
Yeah.
We don't have to put up with that anymore.
No, because it doesn't, like, this winter weather doesn't do well with their joints and things like that, you know?
Yeah.
And they're just hibernating indoor when our people are not indoor people. Like, we like to be out, and,
Yeah.
And
my mom, so growing up, our mom would always like want to go camping. And like, me and my siblings are like, not really. Not really about that. My dad would be like, I camped my whole life. Now I have to make fires, sleep on the ground. Why do you want to take me camping? Why do we have to do that?
Yes. Oh, that's pretty funny. Yep.
Yeah.
You like grew up in a survival mode, and then that's like entertainment here.
Here,
like, we're gonna go camping.
We're gonna go and experience it. No. Yeah. Even when people ask, like, hey, can you guys do a luau and roast a pig? And my dad's like, I am not young anymore, one, but that is so much work, digging an umu and getting all the rocks together and just sitting all day watching watching the food. Yeah, he's like, people don't understand.
There's the oven.
Put the
pig in there now.
So I want to talk about, just to connect this back to Civic. So we talked a little bit about this. So so I've talked about this before, about there being a disconnect within our Pacific Islander community and civic engagement. And I can't really pinpoint why that is, but I've been trying to whakapapa back, bring the genealogy back, to connect our people with engagement. And one of the ways that I've been trying to do that is just talking about our own protocols and traditions back home. I know that was actually really massive for me, especially after I went home, was just seeing, especially having a pofiri going onto a marae, like that there was everybody had a role,
Mm.
and everybody knew their role,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a sequence of how things were done.
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't know what that sequence was, somebody would tell you what it
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
right? And also then just the debate, I didn't realize that we even have our own space for debate and for disagreement, strong disagreement. And as I've been studying our own US Constitution and really just trying to understand what civics is here in America, I've found the similarities of those protocols and those duties and responsibilities in place. And if I don't know what's going on, somebody's going to correct me, whether I like it or not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that has been, that was really, I guess, another form of identity for me, because especially taking so long to become a citizen, I was just like, we don't have anything in common. You know, we are just going to have a symbiotic relationship, whether that's like peaceful or not, we'll just coexist together. But as I studied more into the history and the arguments even around the Constitution, I saw those similarities of trying to create order and establish it for the generations. And I could, oh, I know that, but we just call it something different.
Yeah.
You know, oh, I see why you have that. We just call that something different. And that was really exciting for me, because I knew that I had another seat at the table.
Yeah.
And it's really not about like, am I invited to the table?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I have felt that way. But it was more of like, I can bring something to the table, and something that actually you here in America could also benefit from, just like I'm benefiting from what you have to offer.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I want to talk about those relationships within the Fijian culture. So you just went home.
Yeah.
In September or October?
Yeah, September and October.
For the first time since you came here in 1994.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And we talked about this the last time we chatted, but
yeah.
I'd like to talk about your experience and just to see if we can make that whakapapa again with some of the traditions and protocols here, and even and beyond that, just talk about identity. And
for sure.
For me, a question that I think is really important to ask is, what does that identity have to do with civic engagement? Knowing who you are, where you come from, where you belong, what does that have to do with protecting, preserving, perpetuating liberty and freedom, or even just like order in your home? You know? Okay, so you don't have to answer all of those things, but let's talk about you going home, sis. Let's share that.
Yeah, so I went in September, my first time, I mean, almost 30 years later. And
were you scared?
No, I wasn't scared. I was excited. I think nervous would be the emotion, just because of the unknown. I feel like
you speak the language frequently, though, don't you?
Kind of, yes.
Yep.
It's here and there. Mostly it's my mom's dialect, Lao, and the main dialect, but I'm selective. Like it comes out very natural when I'm with my parents.
But when you're around other Fijians?
Yeah, I'm kind of guarded, but it's a beautiful language for sure. But what naturally comes out of my mouth is my Laoan dialect from my mom's side, maternal side, because I was raised by her side of the family most of my life. But that trip was just amazing. I think the emotions came when I heard the Fijian music, right when it's about to land. There's like this beautiful music they're playing in the airplane, and I think I just woke up and had to like figure out where I was at for a moment, and then like gather myself, and then the music came, and I'm like, okay, it's here, I'm almost here. And then the excitement of seeing my brother, who I haven't seen for almost 20 years.
Wow.
He got deported back during college, and so he was the closest brother. We're like Irish twins, and so that was the excitement, can't wait to see him. And he was coming with his wife, who I've never met, and his daughter, who I think was 13 at that time. But yeah, they picked me up, and we had, lots of emotions, hugging each other, and we're looking at each other because last time we saw each other, we were in our teens. I think I was just turning 19, and yeah, that kind of thing. So we had a wonderful reunion. We stayed in Viti Levu. It's like the mainland, but for a week, just so that I could get myself situated and comfortable with the food and the environment before we take the
you are
ferry.
A vegetarian.
No, I mean, I love vegetables. I'm like selective again with the protein. Yeah, I'm picky. Yes. Whenever I order things, it's always like vegetables. But it's because I don't do very well eating outside the home. And but yeah, so I my trip was 3 weeks. My first week was in Vitilevu, and the second and third week was in Vanuatu, the island up north of Vitilevu. So we rode the ferry there. It's about from the airport to Suva, it's like 2 hours, and then the ferry ride is like 3 hours.
Wow.
And then you drive for 45 minutes to the village.
Wow.
Where my dad is from, and that's my family. Yeah.
Wow.
So my brother lives there in the village.
The one who picked you up.
He picked me up. Yep. Yeah. So they had a journey just themselves coming to get me.
Wow.
Luckily, like you can put any vehicle in the ferry, and so that's what he did to come get me and take us back. But talk about identity. I think I know that was the biggest issue for me migrating here in the US. Like I remember there was a poem that I wrote about I think just trying to be, I don't know if I shared it with you. It was just what it's like to be an American, or what I would do. My mom would dress me up, 5th grade when I migrated, she would dress me up in this kind of British style preppy dress. And then, I was excited and not really excited because one, she would still dress me up. Like I've been raising myself for 5 years, and then here she's trying to, I think, make it up. I don't know. And so I'd come to school and all these kids they have their casual clothes. Yeah. We're not in a private school, it's a public school, No. And here I'm dressed up, and I just had this certain way of like, my mom would dress me up and the kids would make fun of me with my clothing, and then they'd make fun of my accent, and it was like one after another, I would start dressing like them, I would start gelling my hair a certain way, relaxing and perming, like all of these things, and dressing up, pretending like I'm a gang banger, dressing like gang members, and just trying to dress up like to fit in whatever group that was. That was like pretty much me trying to find that identity, because that's what I was having a hard time outside of my house, and in my house, within our home, it was full Fijian. The language, the food, the smell, the people, so trying to
juggle.
Yeah. I think for me at that time, I thought I needed to assimilate. So I was, kind of putting behind everything Fijian, but had no idea that I could acculturate. I could do the two together. Had no idea I could do that until I went to college. But yes, ever since I came here, I thought assimilate, it was just one culture. I had to pick one. So I felt like I needed to choose that one path. And then in college, I realized, I could do both, and then from then on, it's just becoming, and I believe it was also in college where I was by myself. I didn't have mom and dad. I was fighting my own independence, and I knew I was okay with being who I was and who I am. And so it just kind of went from there. Now, my trip back to Fiji, I know that there was so much more that the little Tima, there's little Tima that left Fiji when she was 10, and here I am in my 40s, you know, coming back. And I remember putting my arm, my hand just on my heart, just like, welcome home, little Tima, just welcome home. And all of this was in Fijian, we made it. And especially when we came to the village, we pulled up, it was like 2 o'clock, like one in the morning. And I remember putting the window down, and I just wanted to touch all the leaves. And I just said hi to all of them, all in Fijian, and told them, I'm here. I'm so sorry. I've been gone for so long, but I'm here. And I just needed to tell them that. I mean, it's pitch black. It's so dark, but I just wanted to touch and say, I'm here. We're here. I'm
home.
I'm home. And especially the name that I carry, my aunt who raised my dad, she was very instrumental in the villages there. She was the midwife and delivered a lot of babies. And she was a chief. And I just wanted to acknowledge all the ancestors, like the apology, and I am here and I'm not going anywhere. This is going to be the first of many more trips to come.
I just want to comment really quickly. Like there's a different feeling and a spirit about going to a place that knows you. Like we talked about that, right?
Yeah.
And a place like the soil knows you, the trees know you, the ocean knows you because it knows your ancestors. Like you have generations of your bones there.
Yeah.
And so it's like I can just imagine just breathing the same air again, and reconnecting. I just absolutely love that.
Yeah. I will never forget. I remember saying the first day and second day, third day, like how my skin was so smooth. My fro was like, my hair, you can feel the energy, like the natural kind of this energy around you. Like you can just feel the organic of like how you're just flowing in this energy, like you belong here, and I believe the confidence went to a different degree, increased so much when I went into the village. I could feel the mana. I could feel, even prior to my trip, I could feel like it was perfect timing. The ancestors are waiting, and so I felt all of that. And it really came when they did the welcoming for me the next day. That same morning, like around 9 or 10. But you talk about the roles, of different people knowing what they are to do at that particular moment. And woke up at 5. I thought, okay, great, I'll get dressed. I think I'll get ready before everyone comes. Next thing you know, the families are coming to visit, and they're bringing the mats, the tapas, and then the guys are all over the place. Someone's doing this, and they know what they're here for. They're doing their part to prepare for this event. On my end, I wanted to visit with them, like, hey, come sit down.
Yeah.
But they were just like saying hi. Some came say hi real quick and went back. They just needed to get the work done, So I was just like looking around, like,
was that uncomfortable?
Yes and no, like, because I would love for them to come and sit down and let's just visit, but it wasn't the way that they are used to come and visit. And then also in a respectful way, there's a certain respect that you can only come and say hi and go back. There's a certain to build this wonderful relationship, and where my role is, that they had their distance. Yeah.
Well, and that I guess maybe their communication was through that.
That was their communication.
I think that's so beautiful.
Yes. And my brother was there, luckily, with his wife to answer any questions I had. Even prior to that, they were prepping me, with it. And they bought the pig and everything. We we ate the pig and a lot of things that they made. I think the most beautiful part about identity is when they finally did the ceremony, and they're welcoming. We have an advocate who's speaking on behalf of my brother, because my brother is the chief, but he had an advocate speaking, representing them, and I just remember them saying, "Thank you for coming." And when he said it, he just went on and on about how we're so thankful, those now and those, of our ancestors. We're all here. We want to thank you for being here. You've gone so far and you've gone for so long, but thank you for remembering us to come back. And I couldn't hold my tears. It was just coming down.
30 years.
Yeah, I felt that, and I was so grateful, and that's all I could think of. And I truly felt that his things was coming from a lot of the ancestors in them, and I was surrounded by family. It was beautiful. And he talked about, remember who you are. He talked about identity. This is Yongele, the Vanua soil, Gele. Like, this is, your people. And he just went on and on about identity, like who you are, what you're made of. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And I was like,
you just need to package that and then come back to America and be like, smell that.
Yeah.
And you smell that. And you smell that. And you just shut your mouth and smell that.
Yep, exactly. And I, with the comments that he was saying, I felt like my body just went, like the body language just got from here to like, like the conference. I was like, yeah, what else?
Where do you want me to go? What mountain do you want me to lift?
Yeah, it was exactly that. And like, I wanted to mention how funny it was. I brought two friends with me, one from here and my best friend from elementary school. But it was funny how I didn't get bitten by the mosquito. I had my windows down at night. And they were getting, like, my other friend had all types of cream on his face, and my friend got cut, and like, I'm over here like just floating, just in like,
ancestors have a bubble around you.
And then they're like,
no mosquitoes, no cuts.
Seriously. They're like, Tima, you didn't get bitten by the mosquito. I'm like, no, they can't touch me. This is my land. Like, I belong here. Yeah. So like, it was so funny. I just like soaked it all up, all the things that, one of my relatives mentioned during the welcome. And I was like, yep, I get it now. They were taking care of me. It was like the funniest thing, and everything was just so organic. Like, everything just tasted so good, and I'm just like basking in it, like, oh my gosh, this is good. Like, trying to soak it up, because I know this is going to be just a small moment. And at night, I was just talking to the ancestors, like, thank you. I'm so glad I'm here, But yeah, so it was such a wonderful trip. Got to meet, I've never met any of my first cousins on my dad's side, and got to meet them and my nieces and nephews. I don't remember meeting my dad's siblings, sisters. But I think I was a baby when they babysat me. So it was so nice to see them and like touch them and hug them and talk to them and see how they resemble my dad, and their personality, their demeanor just is so much like my dad. And I saw my dad, and I see why he's the way he is, because the families are all like that, and I was just like,
that's a really like another eye-opening experience. Like, oh, there's a reason why we're like that way.
Yes.
Yeah. And at least for me, I found a lot of comfort in that, because I always question that, like, why do we do that? Why do I feel like this? Even you talking to the ancestors and to the plants, like, I'm sure that that's not something that you just did there, that you probably do that, throughout your life. And then going home, I'm like, oh,
yes,
I understand. And it just, I don't know, I think it just makes it even more special.
Yeah. No, it was definitely a special journey, very healing in all of it. The identity was learning about me and also about my dad, learning about him. And because he does not, you've met him, he doesn't speak. He's a man with no words. Like, he doesn't talk. He just giggles and laughs. But I got to learn more about him from his sisters, because they were saying a lot, and they were connecting a lot of puzzles where I didn't know how to get that out from my dad. There's like this disrespectful way. I don't want to ask too much, and trying to limit that conversation with my dad. And now it's totally different. I'm asking as much questions as I can. But as a young child, it was like, I would ask a question, and the response would be, "Oh, please don't ask that question," or "You don't need to know," like, "Oh, it's no big deal." They kind of would brush it off. And then it was like, okay, maybe I triggered something there. I won't bother them again. So I stopped asking. So, yeah.
Well, and I think that's really insightful that you bring that up, because I think a lot of our generation have run into that, especially with our parents, because they never talked about things. And so I know for my own parents, me and all of my siblings are super dysfunctional. And so we've forced them to talk to us. Otherwise, they would probably lose one of us. We're like, you know how to use your words, but you're going to have to find them.
No, I think if I knew myself enough with that identity, I feel like I would have more confidence to ask those questions, Even if they said no, I would have been like, oh, but hold on. You know what I mean? Because coming back from Fiji, I am like asking so many questions, and I'm like not backing down. You know what I mean? Because
how is your dad taking that?
Oh, it is, I think for him, he likes the fact that he sees something different, but it's coming at him so fast. But then he's excited for the new me. He's excited for,
because now he knows
Yes.
So it's a different way of asking now.
Because I am so like my dad. Like, I was so quiet and so just like, and this is my lane, I'll stay in my lane, that's about it. And he just and I always look at him like, Dad, I know you got something going on in those thoughts. If I need to say it for you, I will say it, and he just laugh, because I see so much of me in him, and I'm sure he does the same. I'm more like my dad, and we're so close, but we have we've always had such a huge connection from the beginning. A lot of it probably has to do with the name that I hold, that they named me after. And his role was dropping me off, picking me up all the time, his whole life. So we had a lot of moments just in the car together. And Talanoa and listening to music and things like that. But I think he's excited for me also because the past 3 years or almost 4 years that they've been living with me, I would take him along with any community event or just any get together.
And you're so busy in the community, so that's a lot of events.
And so like I thought this would be a good opportunity for him to come get involved and see what's there and kind of see what I do, and he enjoys all of that. He's kind of in the back, doing things, but he enjoys all of that. And so
I love that. Your dad is lovely.
Thank you.
He's just absolutely lovely. I wanted to ask you a quick question. Did you ever think, and maybe this is a dumb question, but did you ever think that experience of belonging and identity, that it would be such a, like, so spiritual?
I knew it was going to be spiritual just because of our culture, like spiritual in the sense of the mana energy and, like.
Well, and one of the reasons why I ask this is because I think that sometimes when we talk about it, it's like, we don't really ask people, like, where do you belong? Like, what people do you belong to? Like, where is your belonging? Because it's such a very, like, pointed question. And I think that it would require a spiritual experience, not even an answer, but experience. And I think that maybe we're just not having as many of those spiritual experiences to really be able to answer that question.
I get you.
I remember someone, because there was a question. It must have been at work, like, where is home? And someone answered, home is where I am. You know, and for me, I think I answered something like, well, I live here in Utah. I was, grew up in, so there's like this undecided. I don't even know how to answer that question.
Yeah.
And this individual was very confident with like, home is where I am. And I feel like people maybe feel like when you talk about belonging, it needs to be with a certain group. It needs to be a certain location. Like,
yes, like
I
a
will
location.
get to, like I need to get there.
On the GPS, it's here. I belong here.
Yes. But belonging is where you are. If you're content with where you are right now, who you are, you can belong anywhere.
Yes.
If anything, is the other way around.
Yeah.
Like you already belong.
Yeah.
So whatever is coming to you,
yes,
like then they will align with you and wherever that's going. You're already here.
Yes. Like
So
we already belong.
You already belong.
Yeah.
Like
I love that. I love that.
So I feel like that, which was not a dumb question. I feel that right there is where I'm at right now. It's so easy for me to say no. Like, my decisions are shifted because I already know who I am. I already know what I want to do and where my priorities are. And I'm okay and confident and content to say no. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Just having the confidence to say no. I never really thought about that as like a journey.
Yeah. It's still a journey for sure. I mean, I think the harder part is people not their response to your reaction, especially if they knew you before. Where you're always like, oh yeah, sure, please do. You
like, should give them a shirt or something. Be like, I am post September 2023.
Yes,
this Tima is no longer there anymore, and that's not a bad thing.
Exactly.
And we're grateful for that, Tima. She has gotten you this far. And now you have carved out more of who you really are.
Definitely. I'm excited for this new journey. I believe both little Tima and all of Tima is excited for whatever the journey is ahead of us, So I'm grateful for this opportunity and thank you for just sharing all of this. I haven't had a chance to I've had a few chances to process my trip, but I think your questions has made me think more of the belonging, the identity, and where can I take it up with this, with what I have, with the knowledge and this healing,
Well, and then how do you bring that home?
Yes.
How do you bring that to another country and to preserve and grow that?
Yes.
Like we just had my mom's 70th birthday the other night, and one of the things that we've been practicing when we get together with all of my nieces and nephews is practicing some of our songs. And I told my nieces and nephews, I was like, I kind of feel like, I know it may sound like we're just like faking things because we don't have, our grandmas and grandmas back home to teach us. But they still want us to learn, even if they're not here to teach us the genealogy, like the everything behind it. The fact that we even have the desire to learn, they want us to learn.
Yes.
And I was like, so we're gonna learn, even if it doesn't sound like the people at home, even if it doesn't look like the people at home, we're going to learn because we need to start growing somewhere.
No, that's awesome that you're doing that with your nieces and nephews, because it's you doing that. Maybe it doesn't sound like them, but they're there, like every time you sing, every time you do something of what they do, it's every time that they're there, they're present, they'll always be there, they'll always be around. And I think it's us, like what happens in our mind, like, oh, we probably look stupid, and you know, grandma so and so is making fun of us, but I'm pretty sure they're probably more excited that at least you're trying,
Yeah.
you know. So
Yeah.
kudos to you,
because it's
just
our
for trying.
babies, you know, and I mean, you were doing this for your younger self too, but also, you know, you have your babies when you came home.
Yeah.
And what was that like, coming home to your kids and sharing that experience? Like, were they like, Mom?
Yeah.
Like, who are you?
They honestly were saying how like I was glowing. Like the comments that would come
You're like,
from,
and no mosquito bites,
yeah,
no cuts.
I seriously didn't have any type of like lotion or thing. Like it was just beautiful back home. And as soon as I land in LA, I could feel it, like just
creeping up on you. Well,
yes.
LAX is like that.
Oh shoot, yeah.
I hate LAX.
Yes. Anyways, so I came home and my girls were happy to have me, and way excited to see the pictures. They were excited to just hear all the stories. And yeah, I had family saying, "You're glowing. What is it?" And so I shared bits of my trip to the village. Especially, I feel like if I didn't go to the village, it wouldn't be that type of experience coming back, you know. And I know I needed to go straight to the village for the things that I've been through, and just being so disconnected, and living with my brother who I haven't, you know, been around. I also needed to hear his side of the story, what it's like not having a family member living with him. You know, it's just him, his wife, and family. You know, none of the parents are there, no other siblings. So, and talk about belonging. He got kicked out of that village because of his choices, and you know, here and there he was living with different relatives, but he found his sense of belonging when he came back and kind of had his aha moment, what he needed to do. I mean, he's got his whole story. Like I need to do a book on him. It's but we had a lot of my identity was with his help, you know, with us sharing so much. Because during the hardest times living in the Bay Area, he got involved in the gang and things like that. He was so distracted, and he was the only sibling with me. And so here I'm witnessing all the things that he's doing, and my parents, you know, they were doing the best that they could at that time and the knowledge that they had to provide for the family. But physically they weren't there, you know, emotionally they weren't there. They were working and trying to put food on the plates for us in this home and in the islands in Fiji and in their villages. You know, they had a whole lot of roles and responsibilities on their
taking care
end.
of so many people. Wow.
Yes. They had they've been helping so many of our families, but as a child you don't see that. You just want your mom and dad. You know, I had this huge emotion of anger because they brought me to the US and I'm over here like, where's everybody? You know, like I'm home alone. I'm here with the drunk. Like, you know, and I'm just like,
was
why?
This the dream?
Yes. Why am I in the U.S.? You know,
take me away from my home.
And I felt like I had a whole wonderful life there, even though I really didn't know that we lived in a third world country. We didn't have enough money because I was just so happy as a little child.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, like all those things. So, anyways, I can't even remember where I was going with this. Yeah. It's crazy.
So I want to ask you two more questions. So in your culture, because we talked about this, you have chiefs. So you have villages in so in Maori culture we have tribes. Do you guys have tribes? Okay.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about the hierarchy, because there's a hierarchy, is that correct? In your culture. Can you talk a little bit about that and what that was like for you, going home as maybe illuminating a little bit more of the duties and roles? So you have a chief, and then you have people below the chief, and then you have families that also have certain duties and roles within the village, right? And then so can you just talk about your experience with that?
Yeah, so with the Fijian culture, we have the chiefs, we have so, like a village, and you have like the village council. They would come together and talk about some issues or whatever updates within the community, and then you have everyone has different roles, like different tribes,
So each
right?
village has their own village council and their own chief.
Right. Like there's like I don't know how to explain. I'm not very good. Um, but yes, I think there's like 6 roles where each families have a role. Like Matani Vanua is my family, like advocate, and we have the craftsmen, like people who build boats or like weave
like,
the mats or anything crafty.
Really, like
yes.
the whole family, like that would be their role.
Yes. So that's kind of like when this family would come in and they're kind of in charge of the food. So you'll notice when I mention about when I had families coming on the welcoming day, they were in charge of the food. So that family knew just to go to the kitchen or whatever they were doing. It was all part of the food. And there was like a group here. They were making sure I was getting dressed properly and things like that. Like everyone just knew what to do in their role.
And they trusted that everybody else was fulfilling their role.
Yes.
Like, did they have somebody there like, you over here and you over here?
Like people just know. They just know, like you just know your role.
Wow.
Like even growing up, I knew because we always had guests coming to our house. For me, because I was a little child, I wasn't allowed in the main floor, like where the special guest was, kind of thing. And I think it was depending upon, mostly it was my mom's side of the family. Like they're very like the respect is like to the T. Like I was wearing like a cute rag to cover my head. My mom got so mad because it was disrespectful. Like their culture is really strict, the Lawan culture, but they're very prideful of it. And they like that maternal side, they knew who they are. Like they will tell you.
Yeah, I have some aunties like that.
Yes. And they have a strong influence from the Tongan side.
Yeah.
And I mean, they are, oh yeah, talk about confidence to a different level.
Sometimes you're like, I think I need a little bit of that,
yes.
you know?
Yeah, and then my dad's side's completely opposite.
He's
They're
so quiet.
They're so quiet and they just do their work quietly.
Wow.
They don't have to like share it all. And they just do that. But going back to your question, I asked my brother about the roles. So what if someone doesn't go and grab, doesn't complete their task? And he said, like it was like a question, like he just never
comprehended.
Yeah, like never filling the task. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What universe does that happen that somebody doesn't show up?
So I did ask that question to him. He said, "It just gets done. Like they know, even if that person doesn't do it, that family is responsible for that. He doesn't have to do it. Like he just trusts." Everyone has that trust within each other that they will get the job done.
Wow.
Like, and I'm like, that's a wonderful world to live in, you know?
What I really love about that kind of duty or responsibility is that it wasn't so mechanical, that it actually created something really beautiful and warm. It wasn't just a machine.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. Are those duties and roles, like, are the families elected to those roles, or is it like passed down family to family, and is the chief elected, or like
passed down from families to families? With my brother's situation, it was supposed to be my dad, but since he's here in the US,
your brother took the role.
He took the role, and he needed to ask permission to my dad if he can take that role. But it is passed down mostly.
So the implication then is, if it's passed down, that the families that are the generation that it's passed down to have the heart and the spirit to do it well. That's really daunting, because I was like, well, what if the next generation are like piece of crap generation? Like, is that even a consideration?
Yes. I saw my brother, he's the youngest of the boys. So I've got the oldest one in Spanish Fork and one in Idaho. But what I did witness was how busy, like his role and responsibility is huge.
Wow.
I mean, he talked about when someone dies in the village, he has a responsibility. One of the responsibility, the wife needs to bring the mat to that family. But they're having funerals. They could have 10, 20, 30 funerals in a year,
Wow.
but that is his role, and he needs to figure it out.
So his wife has to make the mats.
Yeah,
for the family,
or
for the
if
funeral.
she doesn't make the mats, in this case, she
Yes.
doesn't find somehow how to get
provide
those
that.
mats.
How big is a village?
Good question. So different villages, some are big, some are small. In our village, is called Nakaukawa. Oh, I would say maybe there's about 500, 4 to 500. I could be wrong, so don't but I'm trying to remember. It was a good amount. Like when they did the welcoming, it was my family, and then when I went to church, it was the same family. You see your family, like
right.
like you. It's like your dad's siblings, because I found out my dad, my dad's parents, they were never married, but they had two children together, and one of them is my dad. He's the younger one of the two. But those two birth parents, they had like 3 or 4 or 5 partners. So then I was meeting their partners' kids and the grandkids. It was like his step siblings, or that kind of stuff. So I was surrounded by all of that. Yeah.
Wow.
From the same parents.
Wow.
Yeah. And yeah.
Is there somebody above the chief?
So like you have the different villages, and then you have like the province, like the district. It keeps going up.
Wow.
Yes. I'm not too sure how to answer that question, but there is one.
And this is like a protocols in place that have been practiced for generations.
Yes, the indigenous, because what happens, like, I don't know how often, whether they meet once or twice a year, all those chiefs, they'll all gather together because there's someone over them. And then I'm trying to remember what his role is. Koro is the village. I wonder if it's like the district or province, that chief over that.
That's so cool.
Yeah. I should have prepared myself.
Oh, no, you're totally fine.
But yeah,
I'm just thinking about like, one, I think it's so cool that there's something like that in place, and that has withstood the times and ages. But also I'm just thinking about like, because I was just thinking of like a mayor in the city and a mayor's jurisdiction and what they have to govern over. And there, I find I'm a little bit envious. I'm a lot envious of your people, because I just really love that kind of structure. That kind of, because it's so natural, and I don't really like mechanical things, if you can't tell from me using that word. But I just think that it creates a different kind of community. Because it's not just like a city and a mayor and we all live in this city and community but don't really know each other very well. Whereas like you guys not only know each other, but you know your roles. And and you also see each other at church and at these other places, and so it's just fortified. Those ties and those bonds are fortified, and that to me is really a community to be envious of.
I'm glad you said that. You reminded me of what I witnessed in the village. Like, although they had their roles and responsibility, I just saw how much they were helping each other all the time, collaboratively. Like my brother, we had an agenda, but it was like we had to take this gasoline, because the nearest one was 45 minutes, to this homes, because he had the truck, and he would place it on here it's the door, but it's on the path because their house is all the way in. And so he would drop it. Oh, first, before he would drop it, there was an exchange. This truck would come from town, and my brother would come out and get all of those big tanks and put it in his truck, and then we would deliver it on the pathway to those that needed it for cooking or whatever. And then that person, he would come back in the afternoon to pick it up and do it again. And it was like, that was just one example
of one of his duties.
Of his duties,
wow.
Just because he had the car, and he did have these roles, but he would just go beyond
it needs
that.
To be done.
It needs to be done, and he knew like it needed to be done, you know, just from his heart. And I saw that in everyone. So it wasn't even
a role of a chief, it was just these people need the gas.
Yes. And I know he is quite different from any of the chief. One, he's young. Two, he's got like the American mindset, and like he has two ways of thinking, like-minded. So he brings himself down all the time. He loves being around with the community. You know, he doesn't like to be up there. He just his personality, and I think people hate him but still love him, you know, because they, from a cultural systematic culture, it's like, no, you stay over there, you know. But knowing how times have changed too, and I believe the influence is the American culture with him, like, and how we grew up, it was like that. No, you stay there, I'm up here, kind of thing.
I've kind of experienced that even going home to New Zealand, where there have been like, okay, no, you're the guest right now, but I don't want to be the guest. Like, I want to go do the dishes with you because I'll feel a lot more comfortable there, and because that's home to me. You know, like, don't treat me like I'm a visitor. I'm home. So don't want to go take the rubbish out.
Yeah, definitely. It's a different definition, right? Like, you feel like you're contributing, so you're washing the dishes together, and they're feeling like, no, you're contributing by sitting down and keeping still. And
and I think that has a lot to do with us being away from home. Where we're like, you don't even know how bad I want to do the dishes with you.
I know.
I have been waiting to do, you know, and especially in your system. Because it's so beautiful.
Right. They kept telling me no.
Like, why are you depriving me?
I wanted to get the coconut. No. You know, I wanted to go and witness that. They're like, no. But then it was like, okay, go.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so this question, and then I'll ask one more question, and then we'll be done. But so coming home to your kids, and now that you've been home for a couple months, so now what?
Yeah, that is a great question. I think for me is trying to decide now, with all what I've witnessed since my trip. There's been some kind of shift of perspective now that I know what life is like. I think for me is trying to contribute, because I've contributed so much and invested so much here in the US, but now I see why my parents do what they do, you know, when they send money home or try to keep that connection with their families. First thing I did when I came to the US, I was like, I'm setting up my Facebook account because I want to hear from my cousins, my brother, you know. So
same.
So that, to answer your question, was I want to keep that connection going. I want it to be sustainable. I don't want it to be just, I went and then that's it. You don't hear from me for another couple of years or whatever. I want that connection because I want to continue that. Like, this is my family, you know. I don't want this location distance to disconnect us. So I feel like, if anything, connection, because if I'm connecting with them, I'm still connecting to my root, my identity, you know, like all of that. It's still moving forward. It's not something I just discovered and then put it and hid it, you know, like I want to keep that flourishing. And so I think that's the only thing that comes to mind right now with that question.
I love that. Well, and you said that your mom's role, like her family's role, is the advocate.
Same with my dad.
Really, both of them. That is so fitting for you because if you know Tima is always advocating.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, you really are. That's when I first met you, right? You were there because you're advocating and still do advocate for the health of our people and the wellness of our people. And I know that's just one of the things that you do. It makes sense to me you sharing the story,
Mm.
why you do the things that you do,
Mm,
you know.
mm.
So, okay, so I wanted to ask you your own question
Okay.
that you were asked just to end our conversation. So, what is home?
Home is going back to the confidence that I have now. I understand what that individual, when she responded, home is where I am.
Yep. Thanks, sis.
Yeah, no,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
your time.
Thank you. This has
And
been
thanks
wonderful.
for continuing to share that spirit of home with the community. And to me, that spirit is the very foundation of civics, which is why I love it so much and why I want to talk about it, because I know that when our people connect with their identity and with home and belonging and the spirit of that, to me, that is the thing. And really what I feel like the people here in America, all peoples are really looking for, they're looking for belonging. They're looking for home.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
and if anything, we can share the experience while they're on their own journey.
Yeah. Well, thank you. You've been awesome. Thanks for making me feel at home all the time.
Yeah, in your own
Yeah.
home. By the way. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Oh, yes. You're
Ka kite ano, o falahi atu.
Kakite ano o for tia tu.